Hi everyone, it's Daniel from Devious Music, and I'm here to talk about the exciting world of 3D sound and 3D music, which I'm getting into for the purpose of making better tracks for you to listen to and hear in different ways. So the idea is with 3D sound is it's not like surround sound, but it's kind of like surround sound. So the difference is surround sound, you can hear it around you in different places, and sound becomes lesser over here and may travel across and sound like maybe there's a motorcycle going by or something like that to make it sound realistic. Just like whenever you go to a movie theater or you have a nice home theater system. The limitation of that is that that's not 3D sound. It's more of a linear type of sound. Yeah, it can feel like it's a little bit up and down in different places, but not like Dolby ATMOS 3D sound. And what happens is the sound is all around you. Think about being in a sphere or being in a space, and you can hear, maybe somebody upstairs, or a sound above you like an airplane, or a sound below you, maybe like a subway, or someone in a room below you, or there's something off to the right-hand side and it's kind of down over a hill, so it's kind of muffled or muted. So that's kind of the idea of 3D sound, and you can also move this sound around. So if there is an object such as an airplane or a drone, you can make it sound like it's coming close to you and it's actually coming right over top of you and going off in a different direction. So you can make the sound feel like it's kind of all over the place depending on what you want to accomplish. So some video gamers out there, they want to hear sound exactly how they think it would be if they were in a building and chasing someone or something like that. So that gives you a general gist of the idea of the 3D sound. So Dolby ATMOS allows us to create this sound for you out there. So for the fans, you get a different experience. So I'm currently working on a symphony, and it's recorded and it's also mixed for stereo sound, which is the normal sound that you all use with your earbuds, earphones, and systems in your cars and so forth. And you can kind of make that feel like it's around you in different ways. So I'm now starting to mix this in Dolby ATMOS. So it makes it feel like you're actually at a symphony. So you can hear the orchestra play just like you would if you were there. So if the drums are over on the right-hand side toward the back of the room and the cellos are off to the extreme right further back in the room, or there are some singers or a chorus that are kind of over here close to the conductor, it will sound like that. So it won't just sound like it's just coming kind of straight at you. It'll sound like you're actually there, which is the whole purpose of this. So I hope you get to enjoy the sound of actually being at the concert, so to speak. That's the goal. So I'm going to walk everyone through the steps of how I do this, and I'm learning it. So it may not be perfect or exactly how some engineers work with it. I'm working through headphones. Headphones right now are kind of the best way of doing it, unless you have a bunch of speakers that you can put over top and all around you, which that's fine if you have lots of money and you want to do that, and that's awesome. But headphones will suffice, a good set of headphones quality. You can hear this through earbuds. It's all about how everything is programmed to make it sound and feel like it's in 3D. So that's the concept. Next step is to show you kind of how I set everything up so we can go through the process of mixing a song in Dolby ATMOS. So hang on. We are going to delve right into a track that I've already mixed and mastered for stereo sound, and this is a symphony movement number 5 And what we are going to do is show you how to set everything up to get ready to mix in Dolby Atmos. So that like nice, rich 3D sound technology that we all are coming to learn about and love. And so I am just learning this too. I have already mixed several songs in Dolby Atmos, so I'm getting better at it, and we'll see how this turns out as we go through it. So first things, we have to do some housekeeping before we can begin mixing. So first of all, Logic Pro settings have to be set up. The audio has to be set. So the input output buffer size must be 512. You can't go below 512. You can go to 1024 if you'd like, if you're working on a higher kilohertz project that's beyond 48,000. But we're going to be working in the 48,000 kilohertz range, which I'll explain in a minute. So set this to 512 and you'll be good. And then the project itself, we're going to take a look at the settings here. And the settings for audio here, we should be working in 48,000 kilohertz. So that has to happen to use Dolby Atmos. There's so much information in Dolby Atmos that goes into programming to make it sound like it does. So you definitely need the bandwidth for that to happen. Spatial audio, we set that to Dolby Atmos. And then the surround sound format is 7.1.2. And then we just leave this pan law -3 dB alone. And we're good to start out. So if we take a look at our mixer and our good old mixer here at the end now, the master channel is going to show us, hey, here's Atmos. And all of these channels representing our tracks across here all have surround sound capability now, which is awesome. So we are set to go. We have to set up our master channel here to have everything in it to be able to mix and master successfully. So first of all, Atmos is here. We can take a look at it, and it shows you the 3D space. And it comes up with Apple Renderer as the default. I change it to Dolby Renderer. So I'm working in the native Dolby system. And this just gives you an idea of the surround bed and the areas in which sound will appear depending on how you mix. So that's the easiest way to explain it. So we don't need to take a look at this for now. We need to add in certain plugins in here, and these are prescribed by Apple and Dolby as being in this particular order. So your limiter has to be first. So the limiter, 7.1.4. This is the limiter here, pretty simple to work with. This is really used whenever we get down to mastering and making sure things are at the right level, all of that. So we don't need to take a look at that yet. The next plugin that we're going to use is going to be our loudness meter. It's of course 7.1.4. And these are our LUFs, as we all have come to learn and love. And that's the loudness units full scale. And if you're a fan listening to this, glad you're here because it kind of gives you a picture as to, kind of what we're doing. So you can visually look and see what goes on here behind the sound. So we're moving this to -18. So -18 LUFS is what Apple prescribes for putting songs on their platforms. So they sound correctly and they have the correct level of loudness that works with their system. So the next plugin that we will use is for space. So it's Space Designer 7.1.4. There are a ton of choices in here. So think about this is you're talking about reverb. You're talking about the room or the space in which the music is going to live. So we want this to sound like it is in a large hall where there is a full orchestra playing this symphony. So I have already chosen my favorite for this that sounds really great is I'm going to halls and I'm going to 4.4, this Dream Hall. And that gives me a ton of space. It sounds really great for the symphony. So we're not changing any of the settings here at all. Everything sounds great that I've already tested, so trust me on that. And now we've completed everything that we need here to begin mixing. And this is all here on our master channel. So here we go into mixing. So we're going to delve into mixing in Dolby Atmos for this track that I already have prepared. And I'm going to just take you through real quick and show you here on the master channel what we have set up here. So as I said earlier, we have Atmos set up here, and I'm going to make sure this is set up for the Dolby renderer. And as I had showed you, all of the different surround beds that are included. And we'll talk about those as we kind of go through the mixing of the track. So, and this just gives you an idea of where things would be in space, as we had talked about. So just like in real life, we're going to make sounds come from certain areas within this space around you. So as far as the limiter, the master limiter here, we're not going to worry about this until we get into actually mastering the track. And loudness, the same way. This is your loudness units full scale. And this gets set at 18. That's where Apple likes it. Negative 18, sorry. And then the space that we're operating in, I'm operating in this Dream Hall 4.3 or 4.4 space. And this space really provides a little bit more depth than even the stereo version of this track. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to listen to a section of this. And here in Logic, we can listen to just a small section here and loop it around. We're going to listen to it first in stereo, and then we're going to start mixing it in 3D. Okay, so you got to hear a little bit of it in stereo. So it has pretty good depth to it in stereo through the mix that I was able to come up with. But we can do a lot of things here to make this really sound different in 3D. So we'll take this back and we're going to take a look at these violins first. And let's scroll through and find them here on our mixer. And so first of all, this is the capital A violins. And if we take a look at those in space, this is taking a look at the space if you were to look at it flat. If we're looking just down on a space, that's kind of like think of it like a plate. And it's flat and you're sitting in front of a bunch of speakers, it's just a single plane. If we click on this and change it to spherical, what this does is you have to use your imagination and think of this whole area here as a sphere that's all around you. And right now, these violins are coming from the center and all the way around to the 45 degrees to the right and 45 degrees to the left. So the sound is coming right from this wedge. It's not coming from above you. It's just coming straight on. So as we drag these points, this sound would get closer to you. It would get more right, more left. And then this actually, as it gets closer to you, goes above you, as like in a sphere. This would be directly above you, behind you, and off to the behind in the left. So, but the idea here is that since these are violins, the violins in my symphony are coming from the left. And they're coming from a certain space in the left. So if you think of how the orchestra is laid out, my violins would be coming from over in this direction somewhere. So right now they're just coming from straight ahead. So we are going to play this all by itself. So we're going to solo these out so we can hear them by themselves. Here we are moving them over to the left. I'm going to hear that again. We bring them a little closer to us. Okay. Let's just move this so we can get a little repetition here. There's the difference, straight in front of you. We're moving it around. It's as if it was really close to you and over top of you. But we're going to leave these guys out here. Okay? So that's the first one we're working on. So we have that one. And now we're going to take a look at these timpanis here. Timpanis are going to come from deeply over in this direction in my orchestra here that we have. So let's get off of the violins and we'll save. And now we're going to go down to the timpanis, and you can see that the timpanis here are set up on this particular portion of my mixing board. And so we can double click here on this little icon, and again it brings us up our screen where we can change this into of a spherical nature. So right now, let's isolate these guys. And I think we have it here. And we're going to listen to them solo. It's a pretty broad sound. Change it to spherical, the sound gets a little bit broader. We can make this come from a lot of different places, right? Bass, especially drums, have a pretty wide sound, so we're going to move them. I'm going to broaden them out a little bit. So it gives a lot more space to that. Okay, so some of this might not be making complete sense yet, but once you hear it all together, you'll kind of understand where this is coming from. So we're done right now with these timpanis. And then also in this little stripe that we're working on are these violins. So if you remember, our violins are coming from the left. And so we're going to isolate these violins. Here we go. There's what they sound like now. And we're going to look at them in a sphere. All right. Hear them moving. That's more interesting. Listen to that one more time. Okay, so there we are with these violins. So what we will do now is we're going to take a listen to this section that we just worked on and listen to it in context, which is very important with mixing, is listening in context. So let's give that section a good listen here. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So the next section that we'll listen to is, I just like to take this in small bites. And we'll do it right there because looks like there's a transition down here. And we're going to listen to this first in stereo, and then we'll begin to mix it in 3D. This set of violins right here is already in 3D, but the rest of it is not. Okay, so we know that the timpanis are located off to our right in the orchestra pit, so to speak. So let's take a look at those guys first. So we're going to limit ourselves to them. And we're going to solo those out and listen to those by themselves as we mix this. So here we go. I'm going to first bring up our little screen here and change this to a spherical mode so we get our 3D effect and we can understand what that sounds like. Okay. Now notice I put this a little bit further to the right than the first timpani that we worked on up here. Reason for that is I want that to come from just a little bit different place than the other one. So these would be kind of side by side if you're thinking about it in physical space, and far back in the orchestra pit. So we have that. And then back to violins. So if we take a look at these violins, and we also listen to those solo. Those come up in sound. And our violins So we have our violins coming from over in this space, and the sound's not very far overhead. It's way far out here in the room. So we have those set, and then we're going to take a look at cellos. Our cellos are going to come from an even different space here. We take a look, and let's make sure we have those. Yes, cellos. We're going to look at the 3D space here, and make sure we're on spherical. So let's take a listen to the cellos. And we want them to come from pretty deep over in this area of the space. That's where our cellos are going to come from. In that space, we can concentrate it, or we can make it wider. Now, how wide you make this also has an effect where if you make it too wide, then it could broaden the sound out too much, or if you concentrate it, of course, it comes from more of a pinpoint of an area. So right now, we're listening to these just as each on their own. So we'll have to listen to the complete mix of all these tracks together to kind of make sure that we have this sound either concentrated or spread out in a way that makes sense from listening to it in actual real life. So set those aside for now. Make sure I save. And then we're going to go to French horns. So French horns, beautiful instrument. The French horns, we're going to take a listen to those and also look at their space. So French horns come from over in this area, and they're closer. So we're going to start off at ground zero here, and we're going to listen to the French horns and adjust those. Okay. So those are going to come from this area here of the orchestra pit. A little bit closer to us, a little bit more above, if you think of this space as coming from down below and up above and up above and up above and then over top of your head. So let's look at that. And then we're going to take a look at the violas. The violas are going to come from kind of the same area as the cellos. So we're going to take a look at those guys. Save. And here we are with violas, looking at their space. And we'll look at it as a sphere. And let's try it out. We're going to move them over close to where the cellos were, maybe a hair closer. Okay, so we have this little area set up. And as far as this basses go here, I'm going to give this a little listen here just to see. Yep. Okay, so the basses are going to be at the back of the room, and bass really spreads out quite a bit. So if we give this, we don't need a ton of listening here. We're going to take a look at this in 3D space, and these basses are going to be back over in this side of the space. So I widened that out a little bit to give it a little bit more of a richer sound. We'll see how that plays out in the overall mix. And then this orchestra kit here has a few instruments within it, but mostly a very deep bass drum sound in here. So we're going to give this a quick listen to. We only need to hear this section of it here. Yeah. So cymbals and drums, most of your percussion comes from, in this case, is going to be coming from over, a little bit over here toward the right, the big drums. Center to kind of right of center in this case. So we're going to move this. Ever so slightly that direction. It's only going to really make it's really only going to make a difference in where the cymbal sound comes from. Bass is a sound that travels pretty much anywhere. It's not directional in most cases because of its nature. Hence the reason why you put a subwoofer, down on the floor. The bass just travels everywhere throughout the space because you're pumping air at a slower rate than a higher sound. So, so if we take a look at this now and we go back and we listen to this section as in its entirety, we'll see what this sounds like out of solo mode and see what the mix sounds like. Okay, so we made our way through about a fourth of the track already, and so let's take a listen to, it's really important to do this. Listen from the beginning now that we have this whole section mixed in 3D, to listen to it for context. So there we have it, the first fourth of the song, sounding pretty good. You may think in this section right here that it sounds like there's quite a bit coming from the left, which that's normal because that's where those instruments are located. As we get further on in the song, there will be instruments coming from other places. So that's perfectly normal and exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to start looking at the next section here. Take this in kind of small bites, and that's how we work through it. So far, I hope you're enjoying kind of what the thinking is here behind this. So it's all about the space, and the space in which this music exists is really important to those who are listening to it. So we have trombones in here, and we have trumpets. So we're going to get some brass in here. And then we have another set of violins and some additional trombones down here. So we're going to first, let's listen to the trombones because we haven't listened to any brass yet. So we're going to take a listen to this just as stereo for now. So we're going to listen to the trombone, and we're going to solo that out so we can hear it by itself. And we have it over here on our mixing board, and we're going to look at the space. I don't think I need to belabor the point that we're going to the spherical space and thinking of this as kind of we're sitting in a globe, so to speak, for our hearing. So the trombones are going to be coming from over in this space. They're going to be closer to us than some of the other instruments we've used so far. Okay, so from my experience and my orchestra that I have set up here in my mind, from looking at some layouts, this is kind of the general area where those trombones are going to be coming from if I were standing here in the middle directing this, this orchestra. So that's the trombones. And it's really not overly complicated to do this. It's just really thinking about the space. And once you figure out what you do on here to take a look at the space, then it becomes, you know, pretty simple process. Now, there's also if I click on surround, there's also a 3D object panner, which changes this panner to a complete 3D object, which I can change where sound is coming from. And so we'll take a look at this so you'll have an idea. So we are comparing the two. And this is just another way of kind of representing that 3D space that we're looking at, ear level, and just where you want the sound to come from. So that's really all this is about, is thinking, where do I want that sound to come from? And if we take a look at, go back over here and look at our space here, this is showing us where the sound will be coming from in this 3D space. So if we play this, so you'll see that that is corresponding with the dots around where the sound is coming from on the Dolby rendering 3D room here, and also the ear level of that. So let's do that again. Right overhead, kind of moving that around. Okay. Comparison. So there's the sphere that we're talking about. Okay. So that gives you an idea of where the trombones are going to be coming from. So this little thing here gives you an idea of where the sound is coming from just a real quick look standpoint. So now we're going to go listen to the, let's go to the violins number 2 here, and we'll see what we have here. So we want violins to come from the space over here is where we had our violins before. So let's do that. Okay, we have them. And then we have trumpets coming in here. And trumpets, in this case, are going to be coming from a little bit different area. And we're going to play those and take a look at those on our spherical map. And the trumpets are going to come from right around in this space in here. So we're going to give that a shot. So I focused them a little bit more. I didn't make them as wide here. We'll see how that sounds in the total mix. And then we have more trombones coming up here, but we also have this other set of violins down here that we have to adjust. And we're going to listen to those as we put them in the position that we want. So we're looking at this spherical space again. And as before, the violins were over in this space. A little bit different violins here. We'll put them in just a little bit different position, but this is where they're sitting in our imagination. So save that. And then we will move on to, let's catch these trombones here that are kind of in this section. Since we know where the trombones are coming from. And we're going to take a look at that. And we know the trombones are coming from kind of back in this space in here. Okay, trombones have a pretty wide sound to them anyway, so we'll put them here in the space that they belong. And then we're going to also, while we're in this area, we're going to catch the clarinet. And the clarinets, usually, let's close this guy out here. The clarinets, here we go, clarinets. If we're looking at our orchestra layout, the clarinets typically are pretty close to the conductor, just behind the flutes, piccolos, those sorts of things. But, you know, clarinets are usually kind of like right in here, right in this area. So let's take a look at that. That seems about right to me. And then the other part of this section that we will catch before we kind of listen to the whole thing again is we're going to catch this French horn down here. Let's save where we're at. And we are on the French horn, and we know that the French horns, from what we looked at before, those are coming from over in this area here. So let's take a listen. Okay, so there we have it. We have gotten through this section, and we're going to take a listen to where we're at now. And we'll put it right there. So we'll take this off a solo, and then we're going to listen to what we just mixed. Okay, so we listened to this section that we just finished, and we're going to go on to the next section. So I think you probably heard a little bit of flute there at the end of that. So that signifies we're in a whole different section here. So let's catch all of that with the tuba and the oboe. So we have a lot of different elements coming in here. We have more timpani. We know where timpani comes from. Comes from over to about 45 degrees to our right, way back in the hall. And our clarinet's already set. Our French horn is already set. And then tuba. So we'll show you where the tuba comes from. And also we have flute, and we're going to have a harp coming in here, and we're going to have an oboe coming in. So let's check out where those are going to be in our orchestra. So we are going to focus on the timpani first, because that's the easy one to do. And we're going to solo that out. And here we go. We're going to check it out on our 3D chart. And boom. So I widened that out a little bit to give that a little bit broader of a sound. We'll see how that sounds in the overall mix when we go back through it. And next up, let's go for the, we already did French horn and clarinet. Let's hit this tuba here and see what we got going on with this guy. So our tuba is going to be coming from, it's going to be coming from over here, kind of in this general area is where I'm imagining it. So if we listen to this in solo, we're going to move that over there. Okay, we got our tuba set. Let's go for the flute next. So our flute is in this little section here. And flutes typically reside in the orchestra down really pretty close to the conductor. So we're going to be down in this area, your flutes and piccolos in this area. So let's go for that. So if you listen to that, that's very close to you, and it's almost kind of coming up over your head as well in the sound, since it's so close to you. So let's give that a listen here. Where it was. Okay, we have our flute set. And then we're going to take a look at the harp. So with the harp, we are going to, let's get over top of the harp here and figure out where we're going to put the harp. So the harp is usually, it really depends on the orchestra. So in our orchestra here, we are going to imagine where the harp is and what. Here we go. Sorry about that. So our percussion is usually back here. Harp can be with percussion or it can be with strings. We can kind of play around with this. Not sure why I like it, so let's kind of play around with it. Kind of like it at a distance over here. So we'll see how that works. Oboe, our good little woodwind, the oboe here. The oboes can usually kind of be here in the center, just past the clarinets. In my imaginary orchestra, that's where those are going to be. And we're going to listen through that. Oh, I forgot to bring up the track for that. Sorry. And here we go with the oboes. And we're going to listen to that. Let's listen to that again. Oboe is an interesting instrument. It's hard to get a really wide sound out of it because there's not a lot of bass to it. So you have a lot of treble in that, and that's coming from right here. Usually your clarinets are over here, and sometimes the oboe could be here. Bassoons, you know, that's just kind of however you want your sound set up, but that's how we're doing ours. And then, so we got the harp set, we got the tuba set, and I think we're ready to listen to this as a whole piece here for this section. So let's take this off of solo. We're going to save, and then we're just going to play it all together. So there we have it. We are 3/4 of the way through the song. So let's move over to this final section, and let's get these mixed, and we will have ourselves a full track. All right. So first of all, we're going to go after this orchestra kit here that had the deep bass in it and the cymbal. We're going to leave that alone because that's already done. And there's a second orchestra kit here that has snare drum and that sort of thing in it. And we're going to place that back where it belongs in the mix. And that is going to go. Let's solo this out. And we're going to give it a listen. There we have it. Our percussion's coming from just right of center. Sometimes percussion's even dead center. We could pull it over here a little bit closer, but there's some timpani in that, so we want to make sure that timpani is still coming from over in this direction. So there we have that piece. And then we're going to take a look at the violas. And if you have been paying super close attention, you should know where the violas are located in this case. So we are going to place the violas over in this area here. And they're always a little bit closer than the cellos. In this case, that's what we're going with. And let's save those. And then we have two sets of violins here. So the first set of violins will come from, as our violins are, compare. Okay, we have those set. And then we're going to take a look at our cellos. And as we said, our cellos are going to be toward the back of the room over to this side here. Got him. And now we have to take a look at several other elements here. We've got this tuba, which we've already set up. And we've done the violins. We have not done the basses. So we need to take a look at the basses. And our basses are going to come from deep in the back of the room. They're powerful. The sound spreads out like we talked about, kind of like a subwoofer. You really get that deep sound that just travels everywhere. So yeah, it's coming from over here, but it kind of goes everywhere. We can compare. So there we have our basses set. And then we have another set of trombones and down here, and we have another set of clarinet. So one clarinet, actually. And so these trombones, I'm going to take a listen to these, and those are going to come from, again, this kind of space over in here. And let's listen to those. Got it. And then we have our clarinet we need to listen to. And that clarinet is going to look like, that clarinet is going to be up in this space here closer to the conductor. Got it. We got our clarinet set. And then this deep bass here, just for context, we'll listen to it. So, as you can tell, that doesn't need a direction. So, in mixing music, usually something with a deep bass really doesn't come from a direction. It doesn't do us any good to bring it from a direction because it spreads out many different places. Back to the subwoofer kind of explanation. Now we need to work lastly on our flute and harp at the end. So the flute, we already set the flute earlier, so we don't need to set that. And we set the harp earlier, so we don't need to set that. So it looks like we're kind of done, but we're not done. So hang on here with me, and we are going to listen to this section with everything. Here we go. So there you have it, the last fourth of the track. I hope that you've gotten a good feel for how we think about the space in 3 dimensions. Mixing has, in the past, been an interesting thing to get different places and sounds and just a lot of maneuvering that had to be done, panning sounds back and forth, which is still done. And that's kind of what we're doing here to some degree, but just a little bit differently. We're doing it in a 3D space. So as you think about mixing music, whether you're a fan or whether you are a sound engineer or even just a musician, it's all about really thinking about how we want this to feel for the listener and the space that we want to create. Because whenever you do a recording, it's very difficult to replicate the space that it occurred in. So I thank you for checking out the video. My name is Daniel Vincent. I am with Devious Music. That's my own label. That's also my pseudonym. And you can follow me on different social media that you'll see here if you click open the text of this video. Thank you.